Hi, I'm Benjamin Payne. At the K-12 Education Office at Hillsdale College, we support school founding groups and their efforts to start classical schools across the country. Finding the right leader is one of the first and most important steps to building a successful school. While we do consider experience in education, we seek candidates who exhibit unwavering personal integrity, honesty, courage, and servant-hearted leadership. Perhaps that's you. If you're looking to engage in fulfilling, impactful, and challenging work protecting our nation's future and building up the next generation of virtuous citizens, we'd love to hear from you. I'm looking for strong school leaders right now. Learn more about how you can make a difference at hillsdale.edu/leader. hillsdale.edu/LEADER. That's hillsdale.edu/leader.
Welcome to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, bringing you insight into classical education and its unique emphasis on human virtue and moral character, responsible citizenship, content-rich curricula, and teacher-led classrooms. Now your host, Scot Bertram.
Thanks for listening. The Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast is part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More episodes at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio. You also can find more information on topics and ideas discussed on this show at our website, k12.hillsdale.edu. We're joined by Nikki Teeple. She is lower school math specialist at Atlanta Classical Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. Nikki, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
Continuing our classical summer series today with a conversation on supporting math instruction. Nikki, why is parent involvement and support of math instruction over the summer months so important?
Well, we all know about the summer slide, and having our children think about math, practice math, and build perhaps a friendship maybe with math is crucial to avoiding that summer slide. But parents play an even more crucial role in math instruction. Parents really are a child's first teacher and role model. And this job does not end the moment that the child goes to school. So it's crucial that parents are involved in a student's math instruction. Children observe their parents constantly. They learn from their parents and they mimic their parents, which that can be kind of scary. And this also includes a parent's attitude toward math. When parents support math instruction and get involved, the children know that that's something that is important and that they want to follow along. This also goes hand in hand with the way that a parent talks about math and their attitude towards math. Children are going to respond that same way.
So what are some questions for parents to consider as they approach supporting this math instruction over the summer?
So I would go back to a comment I just brought up. How do you personally feel about math yourself? And then think about how your child feels about math. Then go back to your child's teacher. Ask them about some of the skills and concepts that they would like to see their child have reinforced over the summer, as well as ask the teacher, what skills and concepts is my child already strong in, and where can I challenge them? And then perhaps even ask the teacher what the teacher thinks that your child's attitude is towards math.
How can parents encourage that wonder and discovery in math over the summer break?
Okay, so Scott, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Parents should model wonder and discovery in math. If you want your children to do it, you should do this. So as you spend time with your children during the summer, ask them lots of questions. What do you notice? Now, remember that these are going to be facts and not guesses. What do you notice? I notice that this problem has a lot of numbers in it. Or I notice, I don't quite understand what this is asking me to do. And then ask them, what do you wonder? These are more like guesses. I wonder if this problem is going to be really hard because it has so many numbers in it. So what do you notice and what do you wonder? and then ask them, is there another way we could solve this problem? I love creative problem solving. So allow your child to go down a pathway that maybe might be incorrect, and see if they uncover what happens when they get to the end and that it's wrong. Well, let's solve it a different way. And if you solve it a different way, if you get different answers, you know what? We figured out one of those ways is wrong. Ask them questions like, why did you choose this way? Does this make sense? Do you think that this is always going to be true? Do you think you could find another way, a third way, or a fourth way to solve this one? Ooh, how many different ways could we solve this problem? And are there solutions? Are the solutions the same when I solve it a different way? You can see I'm asking lots and lots of questions, and that is going to instill a lot of wonder and discovery. A little trick that I like to use is to actually make a mistake in front of my children and my students, and then think through it out loud. Wait a second, this doesn't seem to make sense. This doesn't look like that, but I wonder what I should do. Children depend on us to be perfect at everything, and they expect us to be. And so that can allow them to tune out. But if they know that we're going to make a mistake, they are going to want to be involved. They're also going to feel needed. Like, wait a second, Mom, I know this. Let me show you. It just gets them to become more creative and just wondering what's going on with these numbers. How are they related?
You've mentioned a few times that parents, how you feel about math is how your children might feel about math. I venture to guess that perhaps many parents don't think about math on a daily basis. It's part of life. Are there perhaps ways or suggestions for parents to identify and demonstrate those ways that they are using math on a daily basis?
So I love this question. This is right up my alley. This is my big spiel on math. So when we solve math problems, who would you say are the best problem solvers, or the people who solve the most problems? Parents. Yeah. This morning, I ran out of bread for sandwiches. That was a problem. I was almost out of gas. I knew I needed to stop for gas, but I was going to be late to a meeting if I stopped for gas this morning. That was another problem. Parents are constant problem solvers. If you involve your children in problem solving, that is the exact same approach they need to take when solving a math problem. You can get mad at it. You can say, oh my goodness, I just don't know what to do. I can't solve the problem with filling my gas tank up, and we're just going to sit here and do nothing and wait until someone comes and tells me how to do this because I've never done this before. That's not a great solution. It is a solution, but involve your students into solving some of just life problems, and ask those same questions you would with math. Wait, why would I do it that way? Should I do it that way? Is there another? I think parents, if they allow their children to hear their thinking, it's going to model it for their children. Their children are going to become more confident in their own ability to think through. This is what we call the metacognition piece of math. The thinking about your thinking. Well, if I do this, then I can do this, but that would mess this up. I think parents are just so skillful at problem solving that if they focus on that, the children are really going to strengthen their math abilities.
Going back to a previous comment too, I constantly trying to find ways to allow my kids to contribute right to what needs to get done. Head into a store and, not a lot of people pay with cash anymore, I suppose. But when you do, how much change are we supposed to get back here? And have them figure it out in their head. Something perhaps as simple as, you mentioned stopping, running out of gas. How many miles per gallon? I went this many miles, and look, I just put 16.2 gallons into the car. I need someone to help me find out the miles per gallon we averaged on this tank of gas. Little ways they feel that they can contribute, and then that they have success, that they've been helpful. Those can really be encouraging moments.
100%. That you mentioned, the two things that I always challenge my parents to really focus on during the summer is money and time. Because those are real life problems that involve math directly, because a lot of times when parents they want to know which workbook do I recommend that their children finish through the summer. But math is not just a workbook. It is real life. It is problem solving. It is so many things. So if your children are really young, give them an allowance and make deals with them. I'll give you 2 quarters today if you spend double the amount of time working on cleaning up your room or something along that line. It's meaningful. It's not nonsense. It's not just because the book tells you to solve that problem. It's because there's some problem you're trying to fix or solve or earn. And just like you said, going to a restaurant, how much change am I going to get? Or take them to the store. If there's something that they really, really want, let them go find out what the price is on it and figure out how many errands or responsibilities that they have to do in order to earn the money for it. And you can take it even deeper with them. One summer, my kids put together a little table and they sold snow cones.
Sure.
But I took them to the store and they had to figure out how much it would cost for the cups and then the spoons and then the posters to advertise. And we calculated out how many snow cones they would have to sell in order to make back the money that they spent. You could take it so many different levels of layers. Yeah, depending on how much the students really crave and love math.
Talking with Nikki Teeple, she's lower school math specialist at Atlanta Classical Academy, about supporting math instruction over a classical summer. Are there any specific short daily practices, weekly projects that can support math retention and growth?
Absolutely. So I love anything that does involve math facts. Flashcards are always the go-to, but in all honesty, I like anything that involves math facts more as a game. Now, games are huge. Games are so important to problem solving because when you play a game, it's never going to be exactly the same twice. Something is going to be different. Kids are going to learn strategies. So I definitely recommend playing all sorts of games or puzzles. They could be board games. They could be card games. They could be strategy games. They could be following directions. Like we would play a game where we would walk around in Washington, D.C., and we would flip a coin and decide to go left or right and then map it all out.
As parents look to perhaps plan or think about those ways they can help with math instruction over the summer, do I want to be reinforcing things that had been learned the previous year or looking forward and perhaps preparing students for what they're going to learn the next year?
Definitely looking at a little bit of both. I think it depends on the child's attitude towards math. I think reinforcing definitely is going to be helpful in terms of boosting confidence because it's not something that they haven't seen before. But then enriching it by taking it a step further based on what they're already discussing. So, for example, if you are talking about multiplication facts and you're looking at your times 8, and you come up with several different ways to approach a math problem, and you're doing the typical 1 times 8, 2 times 8, and you go up to the 12 times 8, great. Once you have that down pat, then move on to something a little more challenging. What is 8 times 63? Can we use one of the strategies? Which strategy would work the best? Can you skip count up to 63? That's probably not going to be very efficient. What's another way? So that lends into that mental math aspect as well as strategies. If you wanted to take it even further, what you could, just like you said, you could enrich or enhance their idea of what is times 8 by also looking at division.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've got to host 8 friends to lunch. Maybe I ask my son this question. I need some help. I'm hosting some coworkers. There's going to be 8 of us going to lunch. And where should I take them to lunch? Where should I take them to lunch? And my son would always say this burrito place that is his absolute favorite. Well, great. Awesome. Okay, how much do those burritos cost? I can't remember. Okay, now there's 8 of us. All right. They're $12 a piece. But wait, I only have $100 budget. That's all I get. Am I going to be able to pay for that? No, wait. Is there another place I can go to? What if we went to that burger place that my daughter likes? They're $16. Could I fit that in? What about tax? Is tax involved? So it's a real life problem working on something that your student needs to reinforce, as well as you can enrich it by just making the problem a little more complicated. But again, it's real life. It's something that your student can help you with, and you're asking them lots of questions about it.
And I think we've covered a good portion of this, but making math meaningful without relying on screen-based programs. There are tons of apps and tons of games that purport to help teach mathematical skills or reinforce some of the skills we've talked about during our conversation today. Can we do that, replicate that, do it better without relying on screens?
100%. The one thing that a screen cannot do is build a personal connection. Parents have a personal connection, and I've heard math being described as the art of explanation. And when you have a conversation with your child and your child asks you questions back and forth, that is where you are building the portions of the brain that involve problem solving as well as explanation, comprehension, just true understanding. So parents might feel like they're giving their child a bigger strength by putting them in front of the latest and greatest computer program. But when you sit down, you have those conversations and you ask your child, explain a little further. I still don't understand, even though you might understand, but tell me a little bit more. You are requiring your child to dive deeper into their brain, as well as to take all their thoughts and to put it into words. Even if it's one problem that you talk about for a whole entire hour, you have now dived so much deeper into the understanding of whatever the skill or concept it was with that particular problem. And no computer could do that. And every parent, no matter how much they love math or don't love math, can do that.
Nikki Teeple is lower school math specialist at Atlanta Classical Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, talking today about supporting math instruction during a classical summer. Nikki, thanks so much for joining us here on the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast. I'm Scot Bertram. We invite you to like us on Facebook. Search for Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education. You also can follow us on Instagram at Hillsdale_K-12. That's Hillsdale_K-12 on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the Hillsdale College K-12 Classical Education Podcast, part of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network. More at podcast.hillsdale.edu or wherever you get your audio.